Hi, everyone. We're so excited to have you with us today as part of the IBM Call for Code Education Innovation Case Competition, presented in partnership with CGI University. And we're just so proud to be here. Through the case competition, CGIU and Call for Code's focus is to connect students across diverse academic disciplines from all over the world to collaborate together and to design together and then to present together innovative technological solutions to advance UN Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which is focused on ensuring inclusive and equitable and quality education for everyone, and also to ensure that everyone has access to lifelong learning opportunities. Participants in this year's Call for Code Education Innovation Case Competition are also encouraged, and we certainly hope you will, to apply to CGIU 2022 with their Education Innovation Case Competition project. The CGIU 2022 app is officially open, and applicants can check it out at cgiu.org/apply. I'm really thrilled to be joined today by 3 panelists from remarkable and diverse backgrounds who have each played an essential role in enhancing access to high quality education in countries all over the world. And I'm so looking forward to hearing from each of them as they share ways that students from technical and maybe not technical backgrounds can equally leverage technology to support access to high quality education, which we know is necessary to building a truly inclusive and equitable future for all of us. So just welcome everyone. I know we have some questions that we really are looking forward to discussing today. I thought though, rather than me kind of introducing each of you, it would be a good place to start with each of you kind of introducing yourselves. And maybe Lydia, since you're literally just above me, at least in my view, Lydia, you could talk and kind of share a little bit about kind of what you do at IBM.
Sure. I'm Lydia Logan, Vice President for Education and Workforce Development at IBM. I'm excited to be here today. This is the kind of work that I've been doing for close to 30 years. And now at IBM, I'm leading our CSR team's education and workforce development initiatives around the world. We're working across IBM on initiatives like this, Call for Code, and others to bring education opportunities to people who have traditionally not had access to the learning and skills they need to enter the technology sector. We're often known for PTech, which is celebrating 10 years this year, but today we announced a new commitment to skill 30 million people by 2030. Our Skills Build platform is growing. We launched it in 2019, and through that program, we are able to reach learners in 27 countries, and we're offering content in 14 languages. We're doing that in some of our most important content areas like AI, cybersecurity, data analytics, and others. We want to make sure that people have the opportunity to access the training they need to get the jobs that are available, good jobs with good living wages, and really diversify the tech sector. So I'm thrilled that we're working on solving the challenges of education. We're bringing people together around this challenge and getting voices who can really tackle our most pressing challenges to bring opportunity to people around the world. IBM is doing our part, and I'm proud to be part of that.
And Mazoon, maybe if it's okay, you could go next. And I know you're a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. Maybe you could share kind of how you came to that work and why education is such a focus for you.
Yes, of course. And first of all, I would like to say I'm so thrilled to be here with all of you, and I'm so excited to hear all of your ideas. So my name is Mazoon Al-Milayhan, and I am education activist and UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. And also I am a refugee from Syria, now living in the United Kingdom, where I'm living and studying. So basically, I started with UNICEF since I was in refugee camps, and there I started to campaign for education. So UNICEF, of course, was one of the main organizations that was working for education and for children. So when they saw what I was doing to encourage girls and boys to go to school, they wanted me to join them in their campaigns to not leave anyone behind, and that to ensure every child can go to school. So that wasn't really official work with UNICEF. But when I came to the United Kingdom and when I resettled here, so basically they saw I continued to fight for education, and they wanted to appoint me as a global goodwill ambassador to them. And since 2017, I have been working with UNICEF to ensure that children everywhere can access education and also can reach their rights, and no one is left behind.
Fantastic. And Claudio, please, if you could share a little bit about how you went from working in investment banking to then creating kind of an ed tech startup, kind of why you made that journey and kind of what you're focused on now.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm humbled and honored to be here in this panel. I was born and raised in Brazil, and went to college here, and was able to get a scholarship to go to the United States to pursue my master's in education and MBA at Stanford University. Then it was a change to work in Wall Street for almost about 10 years. I had to return to Brazil actually because my father got sick. So I was here in about a week. My daughter was actually 1 month old. And coming back to Brazil was it had a huge impact on me, just seeing the inequality and the uneven access to actually good education and the consequences of that, things such as violence and lack of opportunities for people. So I just felt that I actually needed to do something. So it was not an easy decision actually to leave behind my banking career to basically start from scratch again, and with the idea of really creating a solution that could provide high quality education accessible to everyone despite economic conditions. In Brazil, we have roughly 85% of the people in public schools, which basically means that they have access to very few resources. So we used technology and different solutions to be able to do that. In the last, I've been doing this for 10 years, and we've reached about 12 million students so far, and really been able to reach those who before didn't have access to a good quality education.
And so, Claudio, I think we will now sort of start with you and then you move around. I'm so struck by the fact that you've reached more than 12 million students is really just extraordinary in less than a decade. And I'm curious kind of what your technology specifically has enabled for students to access, and where do you think technology isn't actually able to close the gap? And then where do you think we should be investing more in technology to help close more gaps that you've been able to recognize?
Sure. Just a little bit of background about Brazil current situation. I mean, we roughly have about a 50% dropout ratio at the high school level throughout the country. Out of those who finish high school, approximately 10% learn the basics in Portuguese and math. So we have it's a big, diverse country. And there's one piece of information which is critical here. There's only one chance for a student who comes from a public school to go to a public university, or meaning that they don't need to pay for it, which is a national admissions examination that happens once a year. The only criteria that matters is your score in that exam. So very high stakes examination. So what we did was, in the beginning, we created a full digital curriculum for high school students, all digital, 16 different subjects, texts, exercises, video lessons, info charts, etc., powered by what we call our adaptive learning platform, which means that we are constantly assessing each student's gaps and providing the appropriate content to them in the sequence that makes sense to them. So we offer that for free, pretty much. In the early days, we had every year 2-3 million students using. Then it became a public policy in 2016. The Ministry of Education here in Brazil said, we need this solution for every high school student, senior high school student in the country to be able to prepare for this exam. So far, it's been 12 million. We've been in roughly 99% of the cities in Brazil. Most students coming from public schools. 2/3 are women. 1/3 adults who either didn't finish high school or couldn't go to college. And in terms of learning outcomes, the studies we've done so far show that students improved the learning outcomes approximately 3 times more than those using traditional textbooks or methodologies. This technology really has enabled us to have this outcome in large scale because of the continuous decision-making process where either teachers or machines search for and respond to the diversity and individual differences for effective learning. And it's been fantastic so far. What we do know where we cannot go is obviously there's other skills, particularly social emotional skills, which are so important right now, which we cannot impact directly through video lessons or texts. We are able to provide information so teachers and students can talk and have a dialogue about this. But this is where I think, we really need other methodologies and, the human interaction to be able to work on those different issues.
And Mizun, I'm so curious, from your perspective, you've, I think, really traveled all over the world and spoken to children who are refugees or kind of internally displaced persons. And you have seen, I'm sure, so many different ways in which families are trying to ensure that hopefully not only their sons, also their daughters, as you spoke about earlier, are able to still be educated, even in the most kind of heart-wrenching of circumstances. What have you seen to really work to ensure that kids are still receiving access to education and learning opportunities? And where have you seen technology, be an important part of that? And kind of the same question I asked Claudio, what do you think technology maybe can't solve?
Mm-hmm. So that's really a great question. To be honest, wherever I go, I find hope from those children, even though they are suffering so much. And anything can really give them that hope, which can change their lives, including technology for sure, because technology now is a great tool to contact with, the people we know, and also with the world, and also to learn through technology, especially after COVID-19. As we all know, education has been badly affected and impacted by the pandemic, and where many children dropped out from education and couldn't catch up with their learning just because of the pandemic, where children in other places like in Europe or in America or elsewhere, they were able to learn even remotely. But for many, unfortunately, they weren't so lucky to do that, or even to catch up with their learning. So I think wherever I have been, like in Africa, like Chad and Mali, there are a huge lack in these resources, and the children don't have even access to basic resources to learn, like schools, teachers, books, even stationery, to be able to learn. So how can they have access to technology? So I didn't see that advanced and even basic technology in a country like Mali, which was the last country that they have been before the pandemic. So I think if they are provided by those technologies, they really can learn well, and also they can change and transform their societies, because through technology definitely they can learn faster, and also I think more, because technology can open doors in front of them. So I remember when I was in the camp also, from my own experience, we didn't have any access to technology because we were only studying by books. Even we had like a subject about computing, and we were just learning about it, and we didn't have a computer, which was really funny for all of us. I know it was funny and sad at the same time, to learn something that we cannot touch or even see. So it was so I can understand the situation when the children they have lack of these resources, especially in this era where basically we need these technologies and all these tools basically to learn and to advance our skills, because we cannot live without technology at the moment. And they feel like any student in Europe, if we tell them, or in the places where they have all these resources, if we tell them like Wi-Fi will be off for a few hours, they will get crazy, and they think this what has happened when Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp went off for a few hours. Everyone got crazy about that. So how about those children who need it just for educational stuff? So I think sometimes we take things for granted. At the same time, many children, they don't even know how to use it, or they don't have access to it. So wherever I went, I think we need to focus more on that and to provide these resources if we can, because definitely I believe technology can help them solve a lot of the problems they face.
Thank you so much, Zoom, for that answer. And Lydia, I think you're the next person to obviously turn to ask you to reflect on what you've heard from IBM's perspective and where you think your technologies and the people who clearly not only understand what technology there is today, but are truly helping to create the technology of tomorrow. Kind of where do you think IBM can really help play a role to help close some of the inequities that we heard from both Claudio and Mizuna? And that while we have different inequities, we know we have, unfortunately, plenty here in the United States as well.
Sure. So today is a big day for IBM. In addition to participating in this Call for Code partnership, where we've got learners from around the world from hundreds of universities participating in finding these challenges to SDG Goal 4, we also have announced a deeper commitment. 10 years ago, we started the P-TECH program. That's a program that offers students in traditionally under-resourced communities a pathway from high school through post-secondary education and mentoring and on-the-job training so that they can finish their learning ready for work. We announced today that we would commit to skilling 30 million people around the world by 2030. So we are all in at IBM across the company. A big part of that will be through the CSR programs, through P-TECH, through STEM for Girls that we offer in multiple countries, through our Skills Build platform, which is being used as part of this competition. We have content on AI, cybersecurity training, cloud computing, a lot of the tech content areas where there are jobs, the new collar jobs that we know provide a lot of opportunity, family sustaining wages, and really have been out of the reach of people who look like me and who look like some of my panelists here. But we know that those jobs are amazing jobs that provide great opportunity to solve the challenges of the future. And so IBM wants to make sure that people have access to that training. It's free, it's high quality. Some of it is developed by IBM and by our clients and our partners. So it's in 14 languages now. We're offering it through support with partners in 27 countries. And we'll continue to expand what we have that we're offering. I think, technology has the potential to be the great equalizer to solve challenges, but we need to make sure that people have access. We saw through the pandemic that people either didn't have access to technology or to broadband. Countries really dug in. In the US, we have a broadband benefit program that helps to solve that for people. What we do know is learning can now take place anywhere, anytime, by anyone who does have access to a device, and not even consistent access to broadband. We have content that's available offline or that can be downloaded. We have to look at making sure that not just offering the content and the technology in these platforms, but can it really be used by people who may not have consistent access? And so I think that's the great opportunity, right? We have mentors who are offering career advice and other kinds of support on the platform. They wouldn't be accessible to people who were only able to learn in physical spaces, right? Like we had in the past. There were a lot of people who may have been in rural areas who didn't have access to certain kinds of learning, certain topics. Now we can really blow the walls off of the schoolhouse, and people have access to information and knowledge and lifelong learning through technology. So I think there are great opportunities that we have. We are certainly grabbing hold of those at IBM and bringing our partners along with us to make sure that we do our part to level the playing field.
And you said something that I think is particularly exciting, which is that your content is available in more than a dozen languages, and that you have partnerships in more than 24 countries. Because I think a big barrier historically has often been, even when we've had, well, I can't really think of any company that quite has IBM's like scale, but when we've had, big institutions, whether in the private sector or not for profits, who have really wanted to tackle education inequity. Often content has only been available in English, or maybe it's been available in 2 or 3 languages. And so I think that is just a really kind of particularly important aspect of your commitment, and makes clear that it is clearly a global commitment from kind of, your global community across IBM. And Claudio, I want to now turn back to you, since you've spent a decade now trying to help close the education gap, and kind of through that really help close the technology gap in Brazil. And clearly your kind of data is so evident that your work is really mattering. I mean, the fact that you're improving test scores 3 times is really extraordinary. I also admittedly was thinking about, oh my gosh, like when I took the SAT, I knew it was important, but I didn't have to think it was the only thing that was going to determine whether or not I got into college. So I have just enormous amounts of empathy and sympathy for the students in Brazil now, understanding that. I'm curious though, like as you kind of listen to Lydia share kind of all of the upskilling work that IBM is committed to, and really helping to train 30 million more people around the world kind of by 2030. What do you think your role is with Geeky and kind of others who are really focused on helping to prepare high school students, is to help ensure that students kind of know what those jobs are, know how to even ask the questions that hopefully would lead them to be able to access the materials that Lydia spoke about, that IBM and its partners have developed, and I'm sure will continue to develop. How do you think about your job kind of differently now, maybe than you did when you started Geeky a decade ago?
Sure. Well, I guess in the early days, it was more about, how can we help these students succeed in this high stakes examination? Based on what I just heard right now and what Lydia said, I think my role evolves to really providing access to that type of information to people. Because, a lot of the kids in Brazil, I was just reading a paper a few weeks ago, roughly 37% of the kids from public schools in Brazil don't have like broadband at home. So how can they have access to that information? How can they know that these opportunities are even available to them? So on the other hand, they all have cell phones, right? So that's been a big part of the transformation here in Brazil, is how can we use their cell phones and the information that gets to their phones accessible, easy to understand, and affordable, actually. So there's no one silver bullet. I think it's a collaboration among different people, different organizations. But surely, when people know what possibilities are available, when they have access to, when they can dream about, those possibilities that can be really life-changing I think we start to transform not only through like formal education, but also, helping them choose what they want to do, helping them have more opportunities that, only sort of continuing the status quo within their families, within their limitations. So, I mean, it's really, I think, a much broader role where I see myself and Geeky, not only preparing for examinations, but preparing or helping them have access to so many other opportunities that they even know that exist.
And Mizoon, for anyone watching us, what are the things that you would want people to know about kind of education opportunities that are available for refugee children today, or maybe the lack of educational opportunities? And if kind of anyone watching us wanted to try to help positively change something, Mizoon, what would you ask people to kind of champion, whether it's to our elected leaders or to the United Nations, to UNICEF? So kind of what do you want us to know, and kind of what do you want us to hopefully help bring to refugee children around the world from an educational perspective by using our own voices in our own countries?
Mm-hmm. So I believe the key thing, for all of us to participate in changing the situation of refugees or children who don't have access to education in general, first of all, is to have awareness, basically, because unfortunately, many people don't know the real situation or the real challenges that are facing children in refugee camps. So it is really important to educate ourselves, to learn about these challenges, because this is the first step in order for all of us to take part and really participate in making a positive impact in their lives. And also, I would like to tell everyone, children in refugee camps, they really have dreams, and they are really have hope, and they are determined to get their education. They just need attention and also help from others in order to be able to follow their dreams and also to get their education. Because maybe sometimes we have the hope and also we really want to go to school, but if we don't have the resources, then there is like no point of it, because basically it is really important to have that desire, but I need this desire to be implemented in reality. And in order for this to be implemented in reality, we really need to work together for making this a real, and also to make their dreams come true. So I think refugee camps, children, they need our voices, they need our ideas, they need our attention, and that's the key thing. And I think everyone can participate. All of us, we can demand the rights of refugees and the children, in particular their right to education. Sometimes we can push our governments to help, sometimes we can donate, sometimes we can just talk and spread awareness, because I think words and also support can really make a huge difference. Sometimes children in those camps, in that difficult situation, they only need others to hear about what they are going through. So if they see that support from the world, that we care about them, we didn't forget them, we just try to do as much as we can for them, they will be actually determined to do something for their lives as well, when they see that everyone is caring about what they are going through. So it is not only for refugees, but the children everywhere who are living in tough situations, who are living in poverty, who are lacking access to education, like in Africa, where even as I actually have mentioned before, they don't have even schools, they don't have teachers. So once we have serious attention and we take decisive actions to help them, I think we can make a world a better place. And I'm sure education everywhere can be provided for children. I know this is not easy, and especially after the COVID-19 crisis, because even before COVID-19 we had many many challenges in terms of education. But even after this pandemic, I think what we have built in previous years, it has been destroyed just because of the pandemic. And so it has worsened the situation. And I think it is a lot of work. It must be done. And it is really important to talk and, to speak out for those children. But most importantly, indeed, to really take serious decisions and serious actions to really change their lives on the ground. So, of course, talking, spreading awareness is a great part, but we really need to take those decisions that the children really can see what we have done for them.
And Mizoon, it's arguably more important now than ever because we have more refugees, more refugee families, more refugee children than at any point since the Second World War. And so this very much hopefully should feel urgent and necessary for all of us to listen to Mizoon and others who are advocating for, as you said, Mizoon, attention and resources and support, because we know that dreams are everywhere and that every dream deserves a chance to thrive. And so just, in our final few minutes, would really love to hear from each of you kind of what you're most excited about kind of in your work, kind of what gives you the most optimism that we hopefully will make very real progress towards Sustainable Development Goal 4 of ensuring that kind of anyone and everyone has the chance to learn. So, Lydia, since you're nodding, why don't we start with you, and then we can go to Claudio, and then we'll give the last word to Mizoon. But please, Lydia, what are you most excited about in what IBM and what your partners are doing?
Sure. I can say, as the grandchild of 3 educators, I am living what they instilled in me, which is to make the world a better place for others and leave it better than I found it. And I'm honored to be working at IBM with a team of people who are so committed to making that true around the world. We are all in, but we can't do it alone. So I think, we've talked about the need for partnership, the need to understand who needs access, how we reach them. We're working with our teams in Africa and in India to figure out those offline solutions even better, mobile first, offline. We are continuing to try to improve what we have. We have badges that learners can earn on the platform in multiple content areas, many of which I talked about before. We work with our partners to make sure that learners have that support that they need, because an online only is a step, but we know people need support along the way, and we do that through partnership. We continue to have partnerships like this one with the Clinton Foundation and others on Call for Code to address these big challenges and to keep them at the forefront of never being satisfied with where we are and always trying to do better and be better. IBM, I keep this next to my desk, but IBM's motto is be essential. And so I think it's really important for us to keep that in mind as we are working on making sure people have access and that they can participate in the global economy and that they can be lifelong learners, and we remove those barriers that prevent that from happening. So those are the things that really excite me, is our opportunity to reach millions of people and to provide them with access to a better life. And as you said, Chelsea, to give their dreams an opportunity to thrive. I think, we know that children have a really hard time deciding what they want to be. And I know we reference this if they've never seen it. So exposure is another part of it. And, our employee volunteerism core of people around the world are also working on making sure they are visible to children so that they can think about their futures differently. So all of those are things that excite me. I'm excited to be part of this panel. I'm excited that Call for Code is up and running. There are more challenges that are coming. I encourage our students who are listening to either, if they haven't registered for this one, and again, it's not just technical students, but non-technical students, people who really have great ideas about how we can solve these challenges, and keep an eye out for the challenges that we have coming up. So those are all things that are very exciting to me.
I think those are all great things to be excited about. So Claudia, what are you most excited about, and kind of where do you draw optimism, from your work in Brazil and also more broadly?
Well, it's been a tough couple of years for us here in Brazil, right? I mean, for everybody, but particularly here, we have about 50 million students who are negatively impacted by the pandemic and the lack of initiatives from the federal government. But having said that, we evolved our solution to offer materials both printed and digital from kindergarten to high school. So we are now able to reach more people. We have been training teachers constantly, and I mean, it's been 10 years using technology right now. And we are at a point where we are able to assess each student's performance and engagement on a weekly basis, and automatically create and recommend a remediation plan for every student based on her proficiency level achieved during the week before. So this is very exciting for us because we don't need to wait, 1 month, 2 months to know something and then do something. It's really like a much more dynamic, ongoing remediation for every student that we are able to reach. And this proximity combined with the ongoing remediation has allowed her to offer a very solid solution to schools across the country. And that leads to the point that Lydia just mentioned. I think what also excites me right now is the possibility of having partnerships, not only between companies, but also between companies and government, particularly here in Brazil. We need this partnerships between governments, companies, nonprofits. And so this collaboration, I think, is the only way to really leverage and use the best technologies and solutions so far to have them accessible actually to pretty much every kid in the country. So I think we need it. I see more space for that. I see more opportunities. And I mean, it's the only way, given that we have 85% of the students in public schools right here throughout the country. And I think just my final comment to those who are thinking about, have an idea or are worried about a particular issue in their countries. I mean, I was a banker. I had no idea about technology. And there were probably a lot of mistakes I made that in case I had talked to more people before, and in case I had reached out to more mentors or really seeked out more help, I think probably I would have done better. So if I had to give one piece of advice for, those of you who are listening and want to do something, ask for help. There's a lot of people, a lot of companies and organizations that have the resources that can help accelerate your path and your learning process. And if you do that, I'm sure amazing things will happen.
And Zoom, what gives you kind of optimism, or what are you most excited about kind of from your work with UNICEF and more broadly?
What makes me really so proud and really excited is being a voice for millions around the world and speaking on their behalf and also highlighting their challenges, because I feel this something really keeps me positive and always determined to fight for their rights, in particular education, because when we have a platform or when we have a place where we can really raise these challenges, I feel we are so lucky, but also we are so responsible to do more for those children. So this makes me really, really excited and keeps me going in my activism work, because I know these children need my voice, and I hope through my voice I really can change their lives and I can make a difference for them. And I hope more children can live in peace, and also more of them they can go to school, more of them they really just can follow their dreams without any restrictions, without any issues, without any challenges. So I feel this is really a huge responsibility, but indeed something is really part of me, and I have been advocating for children for many years now, and I know my voice is, it cannot make like that huge impact, but it really one voice can participate in making impact in the lives of many children around the world. So I will keep using my voice for those children. I will keep fighting for them. I will keep raising their issues and highlighting their challenges, because they really need us, and they need the world to listen to their challenges. And I hope through what I'm doing, one day children really can live in peace and have what they need in their lives.
Well, Mazoon, thank you so much. And thank you for continuing to use your voice. And I hope that certainly everyone here will listen and will pay more attention to our world's refugees, especially our youngest refugees. And I certainly hope, I think there was an implicit offer, what Claudio said, if you have questions and are inspired kind of by what he's done with Kiki, and you want to maybe start something similar in your own country, like please reach out to him. And he's nodding, so thankfully that wasn't too presumptuous of me to say. And for Lydia, clearly IBM is doing so much and is committed to doing even more. So if there are specific things that you would like to see IBM tackle, hopefully it won't be presumptuous to say, please reach out to her and her team too, because their commitment is clearly a very robust one, a very real one, and one that I have no doubt, even though it's quite ambitious one, that they will meet. And we at CGIU and the Clinton Foundation are so grateful to be part of Call for Code, and so excited to see everything that all of you will imagine to help us get closer to the reality that Mazoon is helping to fight so hard for, and that Claudio and Lydia are helping to enable, that every child and every person has the right to every education and learning opportunity that they would want at any point in life. So just thank you again to our panelists, thank you to IBM, and thank you to everyone who joined us.